Thanks, Tyler, and thank you for tuning in to the Amherst Weekly Report. Hello and welcome to the Amherst Weekly Report with Amherst Media. I'm Asia Reed.
And I'm Meg Craig. Amherst Weekly's report field correspondent Olivia Capriotti went to a developing community garden site at Fort River Farm Conservation Area this past week.
Thanks, May. I'm here at the Fort River Farm Conservation Area where a new community garden will be placed. The town has been working on this project for a while now and is also in collaboration with the Conservation Department. I got to speak with Stephanie Ciccarello, the town's sustainability coordinator, over the phone about the upcoming plans for the site development.
I can sort of give you some of the history of the site and where we're at this point. The town has actually owned it for quite a while, but it's just taken us, timing, sort of, there were things that we needed to do to make it accessible for people to garden there. And there was also a large-scale project that was going to be happening on the site. So we were trying to time it so that the project would be done before we started getting people to come in and garden. So, and then of course COVID hit. So COVID, set us back a couple of years. I mean, we still were making some progress, but it set us back a bit, obviously. So we're finally at a point where we're hoping to be able to get people out there to garden this season. So this will be the first season that it'll be open to the public for gardening, that we'll actually have a garden. And what we did was we've partnered with the Healthy Hampshire Food Justice Initiative, and they're the ones who really created the ability to have a mobile market for both Northampton and now Amherst has. It started last year. So we have a mobile market now that visits various, mostly it's kind of outside of or at apartment complexes throughout the community because Amherst is a food desert. So we partnered with them to really figure out a way to get community members organized in a way that they could sort of be empowered to sort of take on overseeing the garden. So right now we have a group of residents who are working with myself and Clark Bankert from Healthy Hampshire to sort of, we've designed the garden space and we're working on getting it ready for the growing season. So we've been working with them very closely, and as I said, there's a group that's in addition to Clark and myself, and then there's also a consultant who's working with us as well, who helps design community garden spaces for schools and communities.
I'm Olivia Capriotti, Amherst Weekly Report, Amherst.
Immigrant farm worker Rosendo Santizo is preparing to buy Winter Moon Roots Farm this May. The Headley farm first started out in 2009 with just a few acres of land and vegetables. Rosendo worked on the farm during this time and helped with harvesting carrots in the Pioneer Valley. Now, 12 years later, Rosendo will be more than just a farmer. He will have ownership of the now 17-acre farm. The farm's founder, Michael Doctor, showed Rosendo the ins and outs of owning a farm for the last 3 years. Getting ownership of the farm is extremely meaningful to Rosendo due to most farms in the United States being white-led. According to Agriculture and Human Values, 98% of all farmland was owned by white farmers in 2014. Buying or starting a farm requires a hefty amount of change in land, which is often not available to immigrants or people of color. Rosendo began his farming journey at a young age where he raised sheep and grew corn in Guatemala with his family. But there are few job opportunities in Guatemala, so he came to the United States where his journey first began at Winter Moon Roots Farm.
Climate and social justice activists, along with Jewish leaders, held an event called Move Their Dough on Thursday that called on financial institutions to end their investments in fossil fuels. The event was held in front of the Bank of America in downtown Amherst, as the participants demanded that the bank invest in zero-emissions energy sources and raise Matzo as a symbol of urgency. One of their goals was to deliver a letter to Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, to pass along these concerns in hopes of company change. The event brackets both Passover and Earth Day, as an Earth Day flash mob will also be taking place on the Amherst Town Common. Two local groups, Amherst Sunrise and Mothers Out Front, will take to the Common at 11 a.m. tomorrow, where banners and costumes will take over the lawn as part of the celebration of the environment. This event is set to feature dance performances from children from the Center Dance Studio, along with Africana dance and fitness. Attendees are welcome to join in on some of the dancing fun during the 30-minute event.
Amherst Regional High School is having the Amherst Police investigate the recent assault charges that occurred from altercations at the school. Superintendent Michael Morris suggested that May and I reach out to the district attorney regarding the battery charges. After trying to set up an interview, the DA office said, quote, "We are not able to comment on any matters, any shape or form." Here's May Craig outside of the high school.
I'm outside Amherst Regional High School looking into the assault and battery charges made against Amherst High School students. Amherst Chief of Police Scott Livingstone said that 5 parents whose children have been victims of alleged assaults had contacted the police department for help. The topics of school fights have been brought up in emails sent to parents and guardians. Topics of fights, vaping, smoking, and vandalism have led to a set of new rules limiting students' use of bathrooms and cell phones. Amherst Superintendent Mike Morris hopes to add a cultural support system at the high school by using more hall monitors, as well as partnering with new town department community responders for equity, safety, and security. I'm May Craig from Amherst Media, Amherst.
This past weekend was the first ever Carnival in Northampton at the 3 County Fairgrounds. The Part Festival, Part Carnival was organized by For Life and Cruise Control Entertainment. As the first of its kind, this 3-day-long Earth Day community celebration had almost 12 hours each day of engaging and interactive experiences. This included live entertainment, carnival games and rides, art exhibits, local merchandising and food vendors, educational speakers, a fireworks show, and more. With the first 2 days of the fair being adult only, Sunday welcomed all as a family fun day. It featured kid-friendly events such as the egg and scavenger hunts. The educational speakers ranged between the cannabis culture panel on Friday and the sustainable practices panel on Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m. Headlining the festival on Friday evening was Waka Flocka Flame and Wiz Khalifa, followed by Method Man and Redman on Saturday, and Be Real of Cypress Hill on Sunday. Throughout the weekend, there were over 50 brands and DJs that performed. Among many sponsors, Resonate was a major supporter of the event, along with other cannabis-related businesses. The event was 2 years in the making since it had to be canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, tickets purchased for the 2020's canceled Carnival were transferable to this year's event. Despite the rain on Saturday, visitors flocked to the fairgrounds from all over Massachusetts.
According to the United Nations, more than 11 million people are believed to have fled their homes in Ukraine since the conflict began. More specifically, this number includes 5 million people who have left the country and 6.5 million refugees who have been displaced within the borders. The UN's 6.5 million figure is based on the research carried out by the International Organization for Migration between March 9th and 16th. One such story of a family is Marta Yeskovich, a Philadelphia resident who came to the United States just a couple of years ago for her education on a tennis scholarship. Being born and raised in Lviv, Ukraine, she is strongly advocating for the peace to be restored to her homeland. While Lviv is on the western end of Ukraine, not too far from Poland, it did not deter the Russian forces from carrying out missile strikes into the city. On April 18th, the missile strikes into the western end began where at least 7 people were killed. Prior to this missile strike, Lviv has been one of the calmest areas of the country throughout the conflict and is a gateway to many fleeing the borders too. Her family is one of them. Her brother and mother have made it to the United States, while her father, like many other older male members of the family, have stayed back. The Ukrainian people have displayed incredible resilience and resistance as they do their best at home and abroad, whether it is to raise their voices or to take up arms against the Russian forces. When the invasion towards the eastern end had begun, Marta was in Philadelphia, adjusting into her new job. The early hours of February 24th marked the beginning of the invasion, and ever since then, Marta and hundreds and thousands have taken to the streets of Washington, D.C. and New York to raise their voices and their flags. Her experiences in D.C. and New York were quite different, even though they were just a few weeks apart. She said, quote, "During the first rally in D.C., people were demanding NATO to shelter Ukrainian sky and support Ukraine financially and provide ammunition. There were a lot of people coming from different states and demanding peace in Ukraine in front of the White House. Many Ukrainian community representatives were involved as well." Marta expressed that people were highly motivated and optimistic in D.C. as they strongly believed that everything was going to end soon. However, people during the rally in New York City a couple of weeks later did not have as a positive attitude as they were then mourning the lives lost in Ukraine. They were still demanding NATO to close the sky in the USA to provide more ammunition to the Ukrainian forces to prevent further Russian advancement. People were demanding to stop financing Russian businesses and to put an end to the purchase of Russian gas, since taxes from those purchases are financing Russian aggression on Ukrainian territories. She said people were crying throughout the rally as they were experiencing fear for their families and home. Currently, the brutal invasion and breach of sovereignty has caused many countries to break their long-standing political ideas and consider a paradigm shift of their retrospect security policies, the abdication of neutrality, and military independence. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been the key factor in pushing Sweden and Finland closer to applying for full membership of NATO, despite Putin's government threatening a military front on those fronts. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said should Sweden and Finland join NATO, then Russia would have to strengthen its land, naval, and air forces into the Baltic Sea. Yeskovich, referring to the historical relevance of the Russo-Siberian migration system, said Russians are sending Ukrainian citizens from occupied cities to Siberia. She said, quote, 2 million Ukrainian peasants settled in Siberia between the 1600s and 1917. On the occupied territories front, which includes Mariupol, the Russian front has set up camps to filter people. A Kremlin document cited by the Eye shows Russia made an emergency order last month to forcibly move over 95,000 Ukrainians to faraway regions in Russia. Yeskovich, among many others who are witnessing the scenario from home and abroad, believe that more will need to be done from the international community. The voices are not loud enough, and more needs to be done to prevent the crimes committed by the Russian troops.
On Wednesday, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congressman Jim McGovern met with Northampton city officials to announce federal investments for community-based projects. The meeting was first held at Northampton City Hall, where Mayor Gina Louise Sciarra discussed plans to establish the Community Climate Resilience Hub in Northampton, as well as announcing federal funding for the Manhan portion of the Rocky Hill Greenway Multi-Use Trail. Funding to complete the path will connect different parts of the community, creating 2 long trails for recreating and getting around. Elizabeth Warren said, this funding to complete the trail will provide equitable access to neighborhoods that don't have a lot of safe places to walk. Furthermore, providing more green spaces for the community and tourists to enjoy is set to help alleviate some of the stressors from a changing climate. The second half of the meeting was moved to the Manhan Rail Trail, where Assistant Director of Planning Carolyn Mish directed Warren and others to the site where the 2 trails will be connected. Warren, McGovern, and Sciarra continued to discuss the plans for the community projects and answered questions. Today marks the beginning of the Spring 2022 Student Farmers Market at UMass. From 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., the market will be held on the next 2 Fridays on Goodell Lawn. The Farmers Market is a collaboration between the UMass Permaculture and the Student Farm. Offering more than just fresh local veggies, the market also includes medicinal herbs, handmade crafts, and student art, as well as featuring live music. Amherst Farmers Market will also be kicking off its spring season this Saturday. You can head to the town common to check out the wide array of vendors that sell everything from bakery and dairy products to produce and handcraft items from 7:30 to 1:30 p.m.
Thank you for tuning in to the Amherst Weekly Report with Amherst Media. I'm Asia Reed.
And I'm Meg Craig. Thank you for all your support and viewership, and thank you to our seniors.
And have a great summer.